The stars looked different through the viewing port of the space station. Dr. Sarah Chen pressed her face against the cool metal and watched the alien ship approach. It was beautiful in a way that made her chest tight with wonder. The ship moved, like liquid metal, flowing through space without any visible engines or exhaust. Its surface seemed to shift colors as it came closer, from deep purple to silver to something that looked like captured starlight. "They're here," Ambassador Marcus Rodriguez said behind her. His voice was calm, but Sarah could hear the tension underneath. This was the moment they had all been waiting for and dreading in equal measure. First contact with an alien civilization. The Federation ship had appeared in Earth's solar system 3 weeks ago. It had sent a simple message in perfect English, Chinese, Spanish, Arabic, and dozens of other human languages. The message was short and polite. "Greetings from the Galactic Federation. We come in peace. We wish to speak with your leaders about joining our community of worlds." Sarah turned away from the viewing port and looked at the human delegation. There were 12 of them in total. Scientists, diplomats, military advisors, and linguists. Each person had been chosen carefully. They represented the best of humanity, or at least that was the hope. "Remember the protocol," Ambassador Rodriguez said to the group. "Let them speak first. Be respectful but not submissive. Answer their questions honestly. And Dr. Chen, you're our lead scientist, so they'll probably want to talk to you about our technology and culture." Sarah nodded. She had studied every piece of information they had about the aliens. The Federation called themselves the Veltar. They were tall, thin beings with pale blue skin and large, dark eyes. They had 4 arms and moved with a strange, flowing grace. But the most important thing about them was their telepathic abilities. They could read minds. The Federation's message had explained this clearly. The Veltar would need to perform something they called a mind touch to assess humanity's readiness to join the galactic community. It was described as a simple procedure, completely safe, where a Veltar telepath would briefly read the surface thoughts of a human representative. "It's just a formality," the message had said. "This process has been used successfully with 437 different species. It allows us to understand your mental patterns, your intentions, and your capacity for peaceful coexistence with other galactic civilizations." The airlock hissed open, and the aliens entered the meeting chamber. Sarah had seen the pictures and video transmissions, but seeing them in person was different. The Veltar delegation consisted of 3 beings. They moved with perfect coordination, as if they were parts of the same organism. Their leader was taller than the others, with intricate silver markings on their blue skin. This had to be Commander Zixathari. "Greetings, people of Earth," Commander Zixathari said. Their voice was melodic, with harmonics that seemed to resonate in Sarah's bones. "I am Commander Zixathari of the Federation vessel Harmony's Edge. We are honored to meet you." Ambassador Rodriguez stepped forward. "Welcome, Commander. I am Ambassador Marcus Rodriguez, representing the United Nations of Earth. We are honored by your visit and grateful for this opportunity." The aliens had no visible mouths, but somehow they could speak perfect English. Sarah guessed it was another aspect of their telepathic abilities. They could probably project thoughts directly into human minds and make them understand any language. "Your species has impressed us," Commander Zixathari continued. "In a very short time, you have developed space travel, complex technology, and have begun to explore beyond your home world. These are the signs of a species ready to join the greater galactic community. We're eager to learn about the Federation," Sarah said, stepping forward slightly. "The possibility of meeting other intelligent species, sharing knowledge, and working together for mutual benefit is exactly what many of us have dreamed about." Commander Zixathari's large, dark eyes focused on her. "You are Dr. Sarah Chen, your leading scientist in the field of xenobiology, correct?" "That's right. I've spent my career studying the possibility of alien life. I never imagined I'd actually get to meet you." "The feeling is mutual, Dr. Chen. Your species has developed independently without contact with the Federation, yet you have reached conclusions about the universe that align closely with our own scientific understanding. This suggests a high level of intellectual compatibility." The conversation continued for nearly an hour. The aliens asked questions about human society, technology, culture, and history. They seemed particularly interested in humanity's rapid, technological development and their tendency to work together despite differences. Now, Commander Zixathari said eventually, we must complete the standard assessment procedure. This is required for all species seeking Federation membership. I will perform a mind touch with one of your representatives. The process is completely safe and will only take a few moments. Ambassador Rodriguez looked at Sarah, who nodded. They had discussed this beforehand. As the lead scientist and someone who had studied alien contact protocols extensively, she was the logical choice. I volunteer, Sarah said. Commander Zixathari approached her slowly. Please remain calm and relaxed. You may experience some unusual sensations, but there will be no pain or permanent effects. I will simply read your surface thoughts to assess your mental patterns and intentions. Sarah stood still as the tall alien reached toward her with one of their forearms. Their hand was elegant with 3 long fingers that ended in what looked like silver tips. This procedure has been performed successfully on representatives of 437 different species, Commander Zixathari said softly. Each time it has allowed us to understand the mental architecture of a new species and determine their compatibility with Federation society. The other Veltar watched with interest, but no apparent concern. This was clearly routine for them. I'm ready, Sarah said, though her heart was beating fast. She was about to become the first human to experience direct telepathic contact with an alien mind. Commander Zixathari's 3 fingers touched her temple gently. The silver tips felt cool against her skin. Beginning mind touch, the commander said to their companions. Initial contact established, proceeding with surface thought analysis. Sarah tried to stay calm and think positive thoughts. She focused on her excitement about meeting aliens, her hope for peaceful cooperation between their species, and her scientific curiosity about how telepathy worked. For a moment, everything seemed normal. Commander Zixathari's fingers remained steady against her temple, and their expression was calm and focused. Then something changed. The commander's large, dark eyes widened. Their breathing became faster. The other 2 Veltar moved closer, their own expressions shifting from casual interest to concern. Commander, one of them said, are you experiencing difficulty with the mind touch? Commander Zixathari didn't respond. Their fingers pressed harder against Sarah's temple, and she could feel them trembling slightly. Is everything okay? Sarah asked, but the commander still didn't answer. The alien's breathing became rapid and shallow. Their skin, which had been a calm pale blue, began to flush darker. Their other 3 arms started to shake. Commander Zixathari, the second Veltar said urgently, please respond. That's when Commander Zixathari began to scream. It wasn't a sound that should have been possible from a being with no visible mouth. It was a psychic shriek that seemed to come from everywhere at once, resonating through the metal walls of the space station and into the minds of everyone present. The commander's legs gave out, and they collapsed to the floor, their hand finally breaking contact with Sarah's temple. The meeting room fell into shocked silence as the most experienced telepathic diplomat in the Galactic Federation lay unconscious at the feet of a confused human scientist. The medical bay of the space station had never been designed for alien patients. Dr. Williams, the station's chief medical officer, stood helplessly beside the unconscious Veltar while the alien's 2 companions worked with strange silver devices that hummed with energy. His neural patterns are completely disrupted, said Kethvar, the younger of the 2 remaining Veltar. Their 4 hands moved quickly over the medical instruments they had brought from their ship. I've never seen anything like this. Sarah sat in a chair nearby, still shaken by what had happened. Ambassador Rodriguez paced back and forth, occasionally, stopping to look at the unconscious Commander Zixathari. The alien's skin had returned to its normal pale blue color, but they hadn't moved or shown any signs of consciousness in the past 2 hours. Can you explain what went wrong? Dr. Williams asked Kethvar. Our medical scanners show that Dr. Chen is completely unharmed, but we need to understand what happened to your commander. Velson, the 3rd member of the alien delegation, looked up from their instruments. Commander Zixathari is alive and stable. but their mind has retreated into what you might call a protective coma. Something during the mind touch caused severe psychological trauma. But I didn't do anything, Sarah said. I just tried to stay calm and think positive thoughts. I was hoping to make a good impression. That's what makes this so puzzling, Kethvar replied. The mind touch procedure has been used successfully on hundreds of different species. It's designed to read only surface thoughts and basic emotional patterns. There should have been no danger to either participant. Ambassador Rodriguez stopped pacing. Could this be some kind of defense mechanism? Something in the human mind that protects against telepathic intrusion? No, Velsan said, their large dark eyes focused on their instruments. If your species had natural telepathic defenses, Commander Zix-Athari would have simply been unable to establish contact. This was different. The connection was established successfully, but something about the human mental pattern caused an overload. Dr. Williams pulled up holographic displays showing Sarah's brain activity during the incident. According to our scans, Dr. Chen's neural activity was completely normal during the entire procedure. If anything, she was calmer than usual. That's impossible, Kethvar said, looking at the human brain scans with confusion. If the human mind was operating normally, there should have been no adverse effects on the commander. Sarah stood up and walked over to look at her own brain scans. The colorful patterns of neural activity looked like abstract art, with waves of different colors flowing through the three-dimensional image of her brain. What exactly does a mind touch do? She asked. I mean, what was Commander Zix-Athari trying? To read? Velsan set down their medical instrument and turned to face her. The procedure accesses surface thoughts, current emotional state, immediate memories, and basic personality patterns. We use this information to assess a species' compatibility with Federation society. Are they peaceful? Are they honest? Do they have the mental stability to interact safely with other galactic civilizations? And this has worked on 437 other species? Without a single failure, Kethvar confirmed. The mind touch has been refined over thousands of years. It's considered the safest and most reliable method of psychological assessment in the galaxy. Dr. Williams enhanced the brain scan display, zooming in on different regions. Tell me about the mental patterns you've encountered in other species. What does a normal alien mind look like to a telepath? The two conscious Veltar exchange glances, communicating briefly through their own telepathic link. Most sentient species have what we call organized consciousness here, Velsan explained. Their thoughts follow logical patterns. They focus on one primary thought stream at a time, with secondary processes running in the background for basic functions like breathing and movement. Emotional responses are separate from logical thinking. Memory access is sequential and controlled. Sarah frowned. That doesn't sound like how human minds work at all. What do you mean? Kethvar asked. Well, right now, for example, I'm thinking about our conversation, but I'm also worried about Commander Zix-Athari, wondering what my colleagues back on Earth are doing, trying to remember if I fed my cat before I left home, analyzing the design of your medical equipment and humming a song that's been stuck in my head all day. And that's just the stuff I'm consciously aware of. The two Veltar stared at her in what might have been shock. You're thinking about all of those things simultaneously? Velsan asked. Of course. Isn't everyone? Wait, you mean other alien species don't think like that? Dr. Williams pulled up more detailed brain scans. Look at this neural activity pattern. Dr. Chen's brain is showing simultaneous activation in dozens of different regions. Pattern recognition, memory processing, emotional centers, creative thinking, logical analysis, sensory processing, and something that looks like, are you imagining scenarios that haven't happened? Sarah laughed, though the sound was a bit strained given the circumstances. I'm imagining about 6 different ways this conversation could go, wondering what would happen if Commander Zix-Athari doesn't wake up, picturing how I'll explain this to my research team and trying to figure out what alien food might taste like. Plus, I keep thinking about this science fiction movie I saw last week, where something similar happened. The silence in the medical bay was profound. She's creating fictional scenarios for entertainment while simultaneously planning for multiple possible futures, Kethvar said slowly. And she's doing this unconsciously, as a normal part of her thinking process. Is that Unusual? Ambassador Rodriguez asked. Utterly unprecedented, Velzon replied. No species we've encountered has the ability to maintain multiple complex thought processes simultaneously. Most sentient beings can barely handle one primary thought stream effectively. Sarah sat back down, suddenly feeling very strange. So human minds are different from other alien species? Different doesn't begin to describe it, Kethvar said. What you're describing suggests a level of mental complexity that shouldn't be possible. The energy requirements alone should make such thinking patterns unsustainable. Dr. Williams highlighted different sections of the brain scan. Human brains do use about 20% of the body's total energy, which is unusually high for an organ of its size. We've always assumed that was normal. 20%? Velson's voice had a strange quality. Most species dedicate approximately 3 to 5% of their energy to brain function. Wait, Sarah said, a thought occurring to her. If human minds are so much more complex than other species, what exactly did Commander Zixthari experience? When they tried to read my thoughts? The two aliens looked at each other again, and Sarah could sense them having another rapid telepathic conversation. We're not certain, Kethvar said finally, but based on what you've told us about human thinking patterns, Commander Zixthari may have been exposed to a type of consciousness that no Veltar mind is equipped to process. Think of it this way, Velson added. Imagine if you tried to drink from a fire hose when you were expecting a gentle stream of water. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Are you saying that human consciousness is dangerous to telepaths? We don't know, Kethvar admitted. This has never happened before. We need to understand exactly what Commander Zixthari experienced before we can determine if it's safe to attempt contact again. Just then, the unconscious alien stirred slightly. Their large dark eyes fluttered open, unfocused, and confused. Commander! Velson rushed to their side. Can you hear me? Commander. Zixthari's voice was weak and shaky. The human mind, they whispered. It's not like anything we've ever encountered. It's not just thinking. It's thinking about thinking. It's creating realities that don't exist. It's... The commander's eyes widened with what looked like terror. It's aware of itself being aware. Then they passed out again. The Federation science vessel that arrived 3 days later was 3 times the size of the diplomatic ship. Dr. Chen watched through the observation deck as it docked with the space station, its hull shimmering with the same liquid metal appearance as the smaller vessel. The ship carried the Federation's top xenopsychologists, neurological specialists, and telepathic researchers. Commander Zixthari had regained consciousness twice more since the incident, but each time they became agitated and retreated back into their protective coma. The brief moments of awareness were filled with fragmented words about cascading thoughts and infinite recursion and minds that watch themselves thinking. Dr. Yenthara, the lead xenopsychologist, was unlike the other Veltar Sarah had met, where the diplomats moved with flowing grace. Dr. Yenthara's movements were quick and precise, like a surgeon or a scientist accustomed to working with delicate instruments. Their silver markings were more complex than the others, forming intricate patterns that seemed to shift when Sarah wasn't looking directly at them. Dr. Chen, Dr. Yenthara said as they entered the conference room where the human delegation had been waiting, I need to understand exactly what you were thinking during the mind touch procedure. I've been over this dozens of times with your colleagues, Sarah replied. I was trying to think positive thoughts. I was excited about meeting aliens, hopeful about cooperation between our species, curious about how telepathy works. Yes, but I need you to be more specific. When you say you were thinking about cooperation, what exactly was going through your mind? Sarah sighed and tried to remember. I was thinking about the potential for scientific collaboration, sharing knowledge about the universe, learning about Federation technology. I was also wondering what it would be like to visit other planets, whether other species would find human culture interesting, how we could contribute to galactic society. Dr. Yenthara's large dark eyes focused intently on her. You were considering multiple hypothetical scenarios simultaneously? Well, yes. I was imagining what it might be like if we joined the Federation. Different possibilities, different outcomes. And while you were imagining these hypothetical scenarios, what else was occurring in your mind? Sarah thought about it. I was also trying to stay calm, monitoring my own emotional state, wondering what Commander Zixthari was experiencing, thinking about how historic this moment was, remembering my training and first contact protocols, and trying not to think about embarrassing memories that might make a bad impression. You were monitoring your own thoughts while having them? Doesn't everyone? The alien scientist made notes on a device that looked like crystallized light. Dr. Chen, I need to ask you some questions that may seem strange. When you think about thinking, what do you experience? What do you mean? Right now you're thinking about my question, but are you also aware that you're thinking about my question? Sarah nodded slowly. Yes, I can observe my own thought processes. I can watch myself considering different answers, evaluate whether my thoughts are logical or emotional, decide which ideas to focus on and which to set aside. Dr. Yanthara's hands trembled slightly as they made more notes. And this is normal. For humans? Completely normal. We call it self-awareness or metacognition. It's one of the things that separates us from less intelligent animals. Less intelligent animals, Dr. Yanthara repeated. On your world, are there creatures that cannot observe their own thinking? Most of them, Sarah said. Dogs, cats, birds, fish, insects. They can think and learn and solve problems, but they're not aware that they're thinking. They just react to their thoughts without examining them. The alien scientist was quiet for a long moment. Dr. Chen, I need to tell you something that may come as a shock. What you're describing as normal human consciousness is completely unknown in the galaxy. No species we've encountered has the ability to observe their own thought processes. Sarah felt a strange mix of pride and unease. Are you saying humans are unique? Unique doesn't adequately describe it. Dr. Chen, when Commander Zixthari attempted to read your surface thoughts, they encountered something that shouldn't exist according to our understanding of consciousness. Dr. Yanthara activated a holographic display showing brain scans and neural pathway diagrams. This is the typical consciousness pattern of a Veltar mind during active thinking. The display showed organized, linear patterns of neural activity. And this is the pattern from a Zephyrian, one of the most intelligent species in the Federation. Another organized pattern appeared, more complex but still following clear pathways. Now, this is what our instruments recorded from your mind during the incident. The new pattern that appeared made Sarah gasp. It looked like a three-dimensional storm of interconnected lightning bolts with thousands of simultaneous pathways lighting up in complex cascading patterns. I don't understand, Sarah said. Is that bad? It's not bad or good, Dr. Yanthara replied. It's simply beyond our comprehension. Your mind appears to be running multiple complete consciousness streams simultaneously, each one aware of the others, each one capable of independent thought, while contributing to a larger unified awareness. Ambassador Rodriguez, who had been listening quietly, leaned forward. What does this mean for relations between our species? That's what we're trying to determine, Dr. Yanthara said. The problem is that Commander Zixthari didn't just read Dr. Chen's surface thoughts. They encountered a type of consciousness that our minds aren't equipped to process. Sarah studied the holographic brain patterns. What exactly happened to the commander? Based on their fragmented reports, when they connected to your mind, they experienced what they described as infinite depth. Every thought they tried to read led to more thoughts, each one connected to dozens of others, forming an ever-expanding web of interconnected ideas and possibilities. That sounds about right, Sarah said. Human thoughts are associative. One idea leads to another, which reminds us of something else, which connects to a memory, which suggests a possibility, which raises a question. But you were also observing this process happening, which created another layer of thoughts about your thoughts, which you were also observing, creating another layer, and so on. Sarah nodded. Yes, that's metacognition. We can think about thinking about thinking. It's recursive. Dr. Yanthara's voice became very quiet. Commander Zixathari described it as falling into an abyss of mirrors, each one reflecting infinitely into the others. They said your mind wasn't just thinking thoughts but creating entire fictional universes as side processes while maintaining awareness of the fact that these universes were fictional. Oh, Sarah said, suddenly understanding. I was imagining what it would be like if the mind touch went wrong, and I was picturing different science fiction scenarios about telepathic aliens, and I was wondering what would happen if humans turned out to be mentally incompatible with the Federation, but I knew I was just imagining these things. They were just thought experiments. Thought experiments, Dr. Yenthara repeated. You can create detailed scenarios that you know are not real, explore them mentally, and learn from them without ever believing they actually happened. Of course, humans do that constantly. We call it imagination or hypothetical thinking or planning. We imagine possible futures so we can prepare for them. We create fictional stories to explore ideas and emotions safely. We think through problems by imagining different solutions. The alien scientist was making rapid notes on their crystalline device. Dr. Chen, Commander Zixathari reported that your mind wasn't just aware of your immediate thoughts, but was simultaneously accessing memories, projecting future possibilities, creating fictional scenarios, monitoring emotional states, maintaining bodily functions, processing sensory information, and running what they described as background thought processes that seemed to serve no immediate purpose. Well, yes. Right now I'm talking to you, but I'm also automatically breathing, my heart is beating. I'm maintaining my balance, I'm processing the visual information of this room. I'm remembering similar conversations, I'm wondering what my colleagues on Earth are doing. I'm planning what I'll have for dinner, and I've got a song playing in the back of my head. A song? Just a tune that's been stuck there for days. It happens to humans sometimes. We call it an earworm. Dr. Yenthara stopped making notes and stared at her. Your mind runs music for entertainment while you're trying to focus on important tasks. It's not intentional, it just happens. Human minds are always active, always processing multiple streams of information and thought. We can't turn it off. Dr. Chen, the alien scientist said slowly, I think I'm beginning to understand what happened to Commander Zixathari. They didn't just encounter a human mind. They encountered a type of consciousness so complex and multi-layered that it overwhelmed their telepathic abilities. Sarah felt a chill. Are you saying human minds are dangerous to telepaths? I'm saying human minds might be dangerous to everyone. The Federation High Council session was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Representatives from over 200 species gathered in the Great Assembly Hall of Central Station, their various forms creating a living tapestry of galactic diversity. But today, all attention was focused on a single species that wasn't even members yet, the humans. Sarah stood at the center of the chamber, feeling very small and very human, surrounded by beings that looked like living crystals, sentient, gas clouds, and creatures that seemed to be made of pure mathematics. Ambassador Rodriguez stood beside her, along with the rest of the human delegation that had been hastily expanded to include philosophers, neuroscientists, and cognitive psychologists. Chancellor Vorthok, a being that resembled a tree, made of silver and light, spoke with a voice like wind through metal leaves. We are gathered to address the unprecedented situation that has arisen with the species known as humans. Dr. Yenthara, please present your findings. The Veltar scientist activated a massive holographic display that filled the center of the Yao chamber. The complex patterns of human neural activity appeared like a storm of lightning frozen in time. Honored representatives, Dr. Yenthara began. After extensive study, we have confirmed that human consciousness operates on principles completely unknown in galactic civilization. What we initially believed to be a telepathic accident has revealed something far more significant. A murmur went through the assembly as representatives of hundreds of species discussed this development in dozens of different forms of communication. The human mind, Dr. Yenthara continued, appears to be what we can only describe as recursive metacognitive consciousness. They are aware of their own awareness and aware of being aware of their awareness in infinite regression. Counselor Nalthek of the Crystalline Consortium spoke with a voice like breaking glass. What are the implications of this discovery? Dr. Yenthara changed the holographic display to show comparative brain scans. Human consciousness operates at approximately 4 times the complexity of the most advanced minds in the Federation. But more importantly, they possess capabilities that we didn't know were possible. Such as, asked Representative Cuvell, whose gaseous form shimmered with bioluminescent patterns. Sarah stepped forward. The Chancellor had given her permission to speak on behalf of her species. If I may explain from a human perspective, we don't just think in single streams like other species. We think in what we call parallel processing. Right now, while I'm talking to you, I'm also analyzing the architecture of this chamber, wondering about the biochemistry of the different species present, remembering my training for this speech, planning my next words, monitoring my emotional state, and imagining dozens of possible ways this conversation could unfold. The chamber fell silent. But that's not all, Sarah continued. Humans have something called imagination. We can create detailed fictional scenarios in our minds and explore them as if they were real, while always knowing they're not real. We can think about things that have never existed and might never exist. She gestured to the holographic display, which now showed the complex web of human thought patterns. This allows us to solve problems by imagining solutions before we try them. We can prepare for the future by thinking through possible scenarios. We can learn from experiences we've never had by creating fictional versions of them. Chancellor Vorthak's silver leaves rustled with what might have been amazement. Are you saying humans can learn from events that never happened? Yes. We do it all the time. We call them stories, or thought experiments, or simulations. A human can imagine what it would be like to visit a planet they've never seen, meet a person they've never encountered, or solve a problem they've never faced. And the knowledge gained from these imaginary experiences can be applied to real situations. Representative Zixhan of the Machine Collective, whose form was a complex arrangement of geometric shapes, projected a voice that sounded like mathematical equations. This explains the humans' rapid technological advancement. They can imagine technologies before they build them. Exactly, said Dr. Jennifer Walsh, one of the human cognitive psychologists. While other species have to learn through trial and error, humans can run virtual trials in their minds. We can imagine the consequences of actions before we take them. We can solve problems by thinking about them from multiple angles simultaneously. Dr. Yenthara activated another section of the display. But there's more. Human minds appear to have what they call intuition. They can reach correct conclusions through processes they themselves don't fully understand. Could you explain this? Asked Counselor Nalthek. Sarah thought for a moment. Sometimes humans know things without knowing how we know them. We can sense that someone is lying, or that a solution to a problem is correct, or that a situation is dangerous, even when we can't logically explain why. Our subconscious minds process information and patterns below the level of our awareness and present conclusions to our conscious minds. Your minds operate on multiple levels simultaneously? Chancellor Vorthak asked. Yes. Humans have conscious thoughts that we're aware of, subconscious processes that we're partially aware of, and unconscious activities that we're not aware of at all. All of these layers work together to create what we experience as consciousness. The assembly erupted in discussions as representatives tried to process this information. The idea of minds operating on multiple levels simultaneously was apparently shocking to most galactic species. Representative Cuvell's gaseous form brightened. This raises a disturbing question. If human consciousness is so complex, how did they evolve? What environmental pressures could have created such elaborate mental architecture? Dr. Walsh stepped forward. We believe it's because Earth is an unusually dangerous and unpredictable planet. Humans evolved in an environment with constantly changing threats, predators, natural disasters, climate variations, diseases, and competition with other intelligent species. Simple, linear thinking wasn't enough for survival. Humans needed to be able to plan for multiple possible futures simultaneously, Sarah added. We needed to imagine threats that hadn't appeared yet, solutions to problems we hadn't encountered, and strategies for situations we'd never experienced. Over millions of years, this pressure selected for increasingly complex and adaptable consciousness. Chancellor Vorthak was quiet for a long moment. What you're describing suggests that human consciousness evolved as a survival mechanism for dealing with extreme uncertainty and complexity. That's correct, Dr. Walsh confirmed. Human minds are essentially biological supercomputers designed for handling multiple variables, unknown factors, and rapidly changing conditions. But this raises another question, Dr. Yenthara interjected. If human consciousness is so advanced, why hasn't this advantage allowed them to develop faster than they have? Sarah laughed, and the sound seemed to surprise many of the alien representatives. Because the same complexity that makes us adaptable also makes us complicated. Human minds don't just think about practical problems, we also think about philosophical questions, create art for the pure joy of creation, explore ideas that have no practical application, and spend enormous amounts of mental energy on social relationships and emotional experiences. You waste cognitive resources on non-survival activities? Representative Zixhan asked, their geometric form shifting with apparent confusion. We don't consider it waste, Ambassador Rodriguez said. Human culture, art, philosophy, and emotional connections are what make life worth living. Yes, we could probably develop technology faster if we focused only on practical matters, but we would lose what makes us human. Chancellor Vorthak's leaves rustled again. This explains why human development has been irregular. You make technological leaps through intuition and imagination, but you also spend time on what other species might consider frivolous pursuits. Exactly, Sarah said. But those frivolous pursuits are often what lead to our greatest breakthroughs. Human science often advances through curiosity-driven research that seems to have no practical purpose. Human technology often develops from artistic experimentation. Human social progress comes from philosophical speculation about better ways to organize society. The chamber fell quiet as hundreds of species processed this information. Finally, Chancellor Vorthak spoke. The Federation faces an unprecedented decision. We have encountered a species whose consciousness operates on principles we don't understand, using capabilities we didn't know were possible. The question is, what do we do with this knowledge? Representative Cuvell brightened again. The humans represent either the greatest opportunity or the greatest threat the galaxy has ever seen. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. She was beginning to understand that this meeting wasn't just about whether humans could join the Federation. It was about whether the galaxy was ready for humanity. 6 months later, Sarah stood in what used to be her laboratory on Earth, but it had been transformed into something that looked like a cross between a university and a spaceship. The Federation had established the Institute for Consciousness, studies in Geneva, and beings from across the galaxy were coming to study human cognition. Commander Zixathari had made a full recovery, though they described the experience as life-changing. The Veltar diplomat had volunteered to be the first alien to undergo what humans had dubbed chaos training, a careful process of expanding alien consciousness to handle more complex thought patterns. Are you ready for today's session? Sarah asked as Zixathari settled into the specially designed chair that allowed for safe telepathic contact. As ready as one can be for controlled insanity, Zixathari replied, and Sarah was pleased to hear humor in their voice. The alien had developed what humans would recognize as a sense of irony, something previously unknown in Veltar culture. The training process had been developed by a joint team of human neuroscientists and Federation consciousness experts. Instead of the overwhelming full contact that had caused the original incident, they were gradually exposing alien minds to increasing levels of human thought complexity. Today we're going to work on parallel processing, Sarah said, attaching the neural monitoring equipment. I want you to try thinking about 2 different things at the same time. I still don't understand how this is possible, Zixathari said, but they closed their eyes and prepared for the session. Through the observation window, Sarah could see Dr. Yenthara working with a group of crystalline consortium scientists who were trying to understand human creativity. They were studying human art, music, and literature, attempting to comprehend how humans could create beautiful or meaningful things that served no survival purpose. In another lab, a team of machine collective representatives were analyzing human intuition, trying to reverse engineer how humans could reach correct conclusions without following logical steps. They had made remarkable progress in developing new forms of artificial intelligence based on human cognitive models. But the most important development was happening in the Federation Council chambers. The galaxy had made a decision that surprised everyone, including the humans. Ambassador Rodriguez entered the lab carrying a document that bore the seals of over 300 galactic civilizations. "The final vote is in," he announced. "The Federation Council has reached their decision about humanity's membership." Sarah paused the training session with Scifistories and gathered around with the other researchers. "Are we in?" asked Dr. Walsh Rodriguez. Smiled. "Not exactly. The Federation has created an entirely new classification for humanity. We're not joining as junior members or even as regular members." "What does that mean?" Sarah asked. "They've designated Earth as the first consciousness development center in galactic history. Instead of humans joining the Federation is coming to study with us." The room erupted in surprised voices as everyone tried to process this information. "The Council's reasoning," Rodriguez continued, "is that human consciousness represents the next stage in galactic evolution. They believe that understanding and developing more complex thought patterns is essential for the long-term survival and growth of galactic civilization." Scifistories opened their eyes and sat up in the training chair. "The Federation has faced the same problems for millennia. Our linear thinking, while efficient, has limitations. We've reached technological and social plateaus that we cannot surpass with our current cognitive abilities." "But humans haven't reached those plateaus?" Dr. Walsh asked. "Humans haven't reached any plateaus at all," Scifistories replied. "Your species continues to develop new technologies, solve previously impossible problems, and create entirely new forms of art and culture. The Federation Council believes this is because of your cognitive flexibility." Sarah pulled up a holographic display showing the comparative development curves of different galactic civilizations. Most species showed rapid initial development followed by long periods of stability. The human curve was different. It showed continuous acceleration with irregular but persistent innovation. "The Council believes," Rodriguez continued, "that the galaxy needs what humans have. The ability to imagine things that don't exist, to think about thinking, to learn from fictional scenarios, and to solve problems through intuition and creativity. So instead of us joining them," Sarah said, beginning to understand, "they want to become more like us?" "Exactly. The Federation is establishing permanent research stations throughout the Sol system. They're sending their best scientists, philosophers, artists, and diplomats to study with humans and learn human cognitive techniques." Dr. Yenthara appeared in the doorway. "The first class of students arrived this morning. We have representatives from 50 different species ready to begin consciousness expansion training." Sarah felt a mix of excitement and responsibility. "Are we sure this is safe? We still don't fully understand why human consciousness developed the way it did." "That's why we're proceeding carefully," Scifistories said. "The training program will take decades to complete. We're not trying to instantly transform alien minds into human-like consciousness. We're gradually expanding cognitive capabilities while preserving the core personality and cultural identity of each species." Rodriguez activated another section of the document he was carrying. "There's more. The Federation has also established the Galactic Creativity Initiative. They want humans to help other species develop art, music, literature, and other forms of creative expression." "Why?" asked Dr. Walsh. "Because they've realized that human creativity isn't just entertainment," Scifistories explained. "Human creative works often contain solutions to problems that haven't been formally stated, or insights about existence that can't be expressed through logic alone. Federation analysis of human literature and art has revealed patterns and ideas that are revolutionizing their understanding of consciousness, society, and even physics. Sarah thought about this. Human stories and songs and paintings had always seemed like natural expressions of human experience. It had never occurred to her that they might be valuable to alien civilizations. The Federation has also requested human assistance with what they call impossible problems, Rodriguez continued. These are challenges that galactic civilization has faced for thousands of years without solutions. They believe human cognitive approaches might provide new perspectives. What kind of problems? Sarah asked. Dr. Yanthara consulted their crystalline device. Interspecies communication barriers that logical analysis hasn't been able to resolve. Resource allocation problems that require balancing the needs of hundreds of different civilizations. Scientific mysteries that may require intuitive leaps rather than methodical research. And they think humans can help with these. They think humans might be able to imagine solutions that linear thinking species cannot conceive, Zixthari said. Human minds excel at finding connections between seemingly unrelated concepts, creating novel approaches to old problems, and thinking outside established paradigms. Sarah looked around the laboratory at the various alien researchers working alongside human scientists. 6 months ago, she had been preparing for humanity's first contact with alien life. Now she was training aliens to think more like humans. There's one more thing, Rodriguez said, activating the final section of the document. The Federation has invited Earth to become the new capital of galactic civilization. The room fell completely silent. Not because humans are superior, Eru continued quickly, but because human consciousness represents the direction the galaxy needs to move. Earth will become the center for consciousness research, creative development, and what they're calling evolutionary psychology. Sarah sat down heavily in a nearby chair. Are we ready for this responsibility? I don't think any species could be ready for this, Dr. Walsh said. But that's probably why we're the right choice. Zixthari stood up from the training chair and approached Sarah. Dr. Chen, 6 months ago you volunteered for a simple diplomatic procedure. Today you're helping to guide the evolution of galactic consciousness. If there's one thing I've learned about humans, it's that you excel at handling situations you're not prepared for. Sarah laughed, recognizing the truth in that statement. I suppose that's very human of us. Indeed it is, Zixthari replied, and it's exactly what the galaxy needs. As Sarah looked out the window at the construction of new research facilities, she could see ships from dozens of alien civilizations bringing their representatives to Earth. The first galactic citizens were coming to learn about humanity's most unusual gift, the ability to think about thinking, to imagine the impossible, and to find solutions in the chaos of consciousness itself. She turned back to Zixthari. Shall we continue with today's training session? I want to teach you about something humans call daydreaming. The aliens' expressions suggested they were both excited and terrified by the prospect. What exactly is daydreaming? They asked. Sarah smiled. It's when we let our minds wander freely, creating scenarios and stories and ideas without any specific purpose except to see where our thoughts take us. Thinking without purpose? Zixthari looked genuinely puzzled. Trust me, Sarah said, settling back into her chair.